Hey YouTubers, Rob here with a look at another Commodore 64 game. This has been an incredibly popular request, and of course we're looking at the classic Elite. This is one that, as I said, it's been a popular request, and I have to admit it's actually been a challenge trying to work out how best I can actually present it. So after thinking about it, I'm sort of going to do it in a bit of a little mini-series. The idea will be this episode is going to sort of be the general overview and a review as I normally do, and then I'll be following on on an occasional basis with just sort of bits. Initially, some sort of tutorial which go in depth about how some of the other system how the game works, and eventually just doing some occasional exploring pieces. So if that out of the way, I'll pretty much cover the background of Elite, and I'll dive in and basically show how it works. Elite was originally developed by the duo of David Braben and Ian Bell back in 1984. So I was 30 years old, and originally released on the BBC Micro through Acorn's publishing label, Acornsoft. As the game was pretty successful and got a lot of buzz at the time. There was degree of bidding for conversion rights, which was snapped up by Firebird, with the first conversion being this Commodore 64 version a year later. One of the advantages of this conversion compared to the others, in my opinion, it was one of the few that they actually officially worked on, as the C64 and the BBC Micro share the same CPU, being the venerable 6502, which means that a lot of the trading systems are a lot closer, are the same. So it makes the game a little more enjoyable playing it. There are a whole bunch of conversions of this game, so they're obviously not in scope. So we started up, we've got our classic task our spinning Cobra. For the purpose of just this intro, I'm just going to start from scratch. We get to see the next ship on the roster. Brilliant. So the classic starting condition of Lave with the Cobra at 100 credits. I think I'm just going to go for a fly around, so I won't really dive into trading for now. That'll come next. As usual, you've got the classic first-person view. The C64 version has a few relative differences compared to the Acorn version. First off, is they added a few little additional surprises. A lot of this version, music is the big one. So if you upgrade the docking computers, you get the classic Blue Danube as used from 2001 for docking, and then you also get the trombles, which are a little surprise when you've made enough money. All right. Let's see how we go. See if we can actually do this run. I mean, a few little details are lost. The planets are the biggest on the Acorn machines. There's actually little graphic details on the planet. There's sort of like some curved lines and sort of crater effects that do appear as you on the planet orbit. You don't get those here, unfortunately. The big problem is really the speed. Elite was never the kind of game that the C64 was designed for. Oops. Yeah, Elite was never really designed for the C64. So because of that, it doesn't really take advantage. Yeah, it's not a 2D game. It's not using the C64 hardware to a great extent. And as you just saw there, it could chug quite a bit in combat. And that is where a lot of the challenge comes from playing this version. I've been playing it a lot lately and got, partly in response to requests, that did get somewhat hooked. And that was the thing I found, is combat becomes a lot harder when you're starting out because you're not that heavily armed, because of the frame rate. So the frame rate chugs, and your Cobra isn't equipped that well, and it becomes really hard to be able to take enemies out quickly. So let's dive in again, and this time we'll actually pick another system, and one where we probably won't end up. All right. So in terms of where Elite fits in, the big thing is it's probably one of the first cases where procedural generation was employed on this scale. Being that the original platform it was released on only had 32K RAM, they really had to implement this kind of procedural generation, to generate all the systems and have them in memory at a time. Most other games at this time would probably just stick a very limited number of systems that you could explore. But with Elite, there are 8 galaxies, each with 256 worlds, different systems. And each of those can be generated, and each of those needs to be able to be restored at runtime as you change galaxies or go to different systems. So that is by far, I think, the most impressive aspect of the game. Granted, getting this kind of 3D graphics on a home computer running as well as they do is also impressive, but I think the procedural content aspect is really where it shines. Now, for example, they've been able to get it so that based on the seed, they could generate all those galaxies and all this data for the planet, for each planet in terms of name, tech level, the type of government, the type of economy, and even its description. That's all generated on regenerated on the fly as necessary, which is actually very impressive from a technical standpoint. Again, 3D is your standard wireframe 3D, but with the hidden surfaces removed again, it gives that extra impression of detail that you didn't get in earlier 3D games where you could just see all the vectors. So the basic concept of Elite is more important. The gameplay itself revolves around trading and spaceflight. You fly between worlds, you dock at the orbiting station, and you trade goods. And of course, en route, as you approach the planet in the system to get to the space station, you need to ward off pirates and other targets. But the beauty of it is that it's completely freeform. You might decide that you don't want to be a trader and that you would like to just focus on being a bounty hunter, and you can do that. You might, of course, need to find that you'll be spending your time in more dangerous systems to compensate, but the option is always there. You find that you want to try and be a pirate and run the riskier goods, as not all the goods that you can trade are legal, and you can do that. Or you might raid other trading craft. You go into a system, raid other craft as they approach, and all of these aspects of the game. And for the time period, it was never done before. A lot of games were the classic arcade formula. And here is a team of 2 students put together something that's incredibly forward thinking. And where Elite sits, it sits very heavily in terms of a wide sphere of influence compared to a lot of other games at the time. So here we are, going to attempt docking. Docking is one of the things that a lot of people think is incredibly challenging. I found a little tricky when you start with, but over time it sort of becomes second nature. So I find myself pretty reasonable at it, which is the catch-22. You can buy a docking computer, but you need to do a lot of trading to afford the docking computer. And by that point, is the docking computer actually necessary? Well, your opinion might differ. So in this case, coming up to the station, and the usual approach is try to pass over the top, and you can see the entrance window, the entrance bay there. Then try to turn towards the planet, because the entrance of the station always points towards the planet. We slow down. Turn around to face the station. And we should be pretty good. One thing I don't like with this C64 version, technically, is you play off a joystick, you can't use the keyboard at the same time. It's sort of like reading the joystick blocks reading the keyboard, and that becomes an extra factor in challenge when you're in combat or attempting to do a precise maneuver like we are for docking. You wanting to change the speed, change your angle, bank, all these little details. So I am actually using the keyboard controls here, and they're a little more. I think they're actually a little more playable. There was actually an enhanced hack called Elite 128 that an individual put out in the 90s. He took the original game, hacked it, made it detect the extra CPU of the Commodore 128, and a few other things to make the game a little more playable, which is actually an impressive technical work. He started from the released game. He didn't have the source code or anything, so it's incredible. But we've successfully docked. Now, as we didn't trade, all we could really do is buy some fuel. And we go through, we've got the systems we can see. We've got our sales screen, we can buy cargo we can sell, ship systems. What systems are available usually varies depending on the tech level of a system, of a planet. You'll arrive and different things. So in this case, we're at what? We're at a tech level 11, so that gives us most of the systems available. In this case, we can refuel, we can buy extra missiles. The cargo bay allows you to carry more goods. ECM is for incoming missiles. Pulse lasers are your standard lasers. They're fairly weak, but they don't overheat. Beam lasers are the more powerful variant. Fuel scoops allow you to pick up cargo and fuel. I will show that in a later episode. Escape pod allows you to eject the ship when you are under critical attack. Energy bomb is a bomb that blasts most of the surrounding area, multiple targets. Extra energy unit helps the recharge rate. Docking computers automatically let you dock. Galactic hyperspace is how you move between galaxies. And whereas with normal hyperspace, you can select a planet within your fuel range and jump. Galactic hyperspace only lets you move to the next galaxy in the loop. So, we're in Galaxy 1 at the moment. We're on to Galaxy 2, Galaxy 2 to Galaxy 3, and so on. When you reach Galaxy 8, you loop back. The military laser is the most powerful laser, but can overheat quickly. And the mining laser is a special laser that's really only designed for attacking asteroids to mine them, as that is actually another way you can earn money, just mining the asteroids that you occasionally encounter in a system, and collect the debris with your fuel scoops and trade that ores and minerals. From there we've got the galactic chart. Now that chart is the entire first galaxy. We are centered on the little cross, and you can see the little circle shows the fuel range. That's 7 light years of range. Then we can zoom in and get the short range chart, which shows us everything that's nearby based on what we can reach. We can then view the data on the selected planet. As we're currently locked on Leasty, which is where we've docked, we get its description. We can view the market prices without actually having to go buy or sell. We can view our own stats, so it tells us where we are. Present, where you've got your hyperspace set to. In this case, we haven't adjusted. Whether we're docked or in green, yellow, red condition, based on are we just free flying in space, or are we under attack, or are we potentially under attack? How much fuel we've got, how much cash. Our legal status, which is based on are you trading certain things, are you attacking things, and your rating, your combat rating. And of course, that's one of the objectives. The soft objectives is to raise that up to elite, and you get a summary of what equipment you've installed on the ship. And the other screen is your inventory, and that covers cargo. So that's sort of a quick run through of the basic interface. I think we'll go for another. Alright. A dull planet, that's always a good thing to visit. Hopefully, it won't be too heavily infested. And that's sort of the background. I mean, as a game, Elite is utterly groundbreaking. It's put together incredibly well. It's incredibly detailed. But in terms of this Commodore 64 conversion, I think there's just a few little niggles about it that don't let the game reach its full potential. I think, and true in some regard, they can be acknowledged for the fact that it's still a fairly early game. But the thing is, the fact is, it can stand beyond that so much. Oh, but it can stand beyond those limitations to actually create such an engrossing experience. That's one of the things I like. I mean, the frame rate's a bit terrible at times. It makes combat unfairly hard when you're starting out. But the result is just so imaginative. Just going on and, the bulk of it is really going through, working out where you could jump to, what you can try and trade, or what you're going to do. The thing is, the freeform nature of this game is something that's incredibly unique, and it's why I really do consider it a classic. So I think this is enough of an introduction to Elite. I'm hoping that, if you haven't really played it, the other videos I'll put out, at least the next couple of parts, will sort of introduce a bit more of the game in terms of trading and combat, and sort of introducing how everything works, so that you can watch them and get a bit of an idea on how you can survive and how you can start making your way through this game. The short plan is the next part is really going to be about trading. I want to introduce all the trading in depth and sort of show you a few routes, show how it all comes together, in terms of planets and descriptions and what to look for, and start working out how to do that. I probably mightn't do as much piracy stuff, but that's sort of where I want to be. And then I want to bring up combat and how to be prepared for battle. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Would love to hear feedback on this one. I think that compared to the others, compared to the traditional style I've been doing, it is a little different. So this will probably be intermittent in the feed amongst other shorter play videos. Just because there's a lot of time to put into a game like Elite, and I've got to try and see if I can use my saves and get them to catch up. So I'd love to hear your feedback on would that be interesting? And as usual, like, subscribe, share. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was a good little intro to Elite. And I look forward to bringing you both other games and more in-depth stuff into Elite soon. Thanks for watching.